I think we can start. It's sort of a sectional class. A few things to say. Before we read anything, I want to say that I spoke with someone recently who's begun reading the Bible. And I think they've been reading it for a few months. And they already have lots of strong opinions. And it's okay, they can do what they want, but I told them do you remember how long we did class on the Bible before I spoke? Before I almost ever spoke. I bet it took me 8 years to have strong opinions on what the Bible is. 8 years of reading it deeply, studying theology, and absorbing it. And that's just clearly better for a contemplative. It's clearly. And it ties into what I want to teach you guys tonight or say tonight. It's really hard. It's hard to, what I want to say is very hard to say. I think you'll all know what I mean, though I do, and also come to know what I mean more deeply if you continue to shed your ideas. You really got to continue to shed ideas. And so I think we'll talk about Genesis, and I've done this class before. I have a different class in mind, and I sat down to write it, and this came and usurped it. And I think I've given this class 4 times in the last 6 months, so I apologize if it feels repetitive. It may, but it came and usurped what I came out of meditation with a class in my head. When I sat down to make that class something else, usurped it. So I was unable to do the class I wanted to do. But just think of this theme. Whatever your ideas are, you think them too much and you hold them too strongly. And you're just going to have to let them go in order to go deeper. And you're probably, I don't know what your mind's going to do, but your mind is probably going to say, but they're true. It's going to step in and say, but they're true. And they might be, but they're keeping you from heaven and God. That's the thing. And you're just going to have to understand. And if you've had, even anyone in here mostly has had a single spiritual awakening, if you've had one, think how different you are now compared to then. And now think how the difference between how you were then and the way you are now is minuscule compared to the difference you need to come to enter in heaven. So think of that. Just think of that. And it doesn't mean you're bad or wrong. I don't walk around thinking I'm bad or wrong. Well, I do think I'm wrong. But our thoughts are in the way. And our positions are in the way. And I want to, I guess now is the time. I talked about the circus last week and the spectacle, and it's hard to look away. But then in talking to people about the class one-on-one, I think I a little bit was misunderstood. I stepped away from, I do one day a week, I catch up on politics. I spend about 25 minutes. I cut myself away from all content. I'm shocked at how much more full my enlightenment is, and my spirituality. It's made Mary said I better tell you guys this directly. It's made an incredible difference in my spirituality. And so when I said don't dance with the devil, I didn't just mean consume it all week, but just don't get mad. And I don't know how much you should consume and how much you shouldn't. I don't know the line, but I know that I rarely ever tune into God and have God be talking about it. There's rarely ever once in a great while, there's something will come. And also, and this I'll talk about later also, but just think about your life without your phone. And if you've never fasted from it, maybe you should fast from your phone for a week. You just never pick it up, never get on YouTube, never pick up your phone. It's right on that other side of feeling a little bored. It's right in that moment when you feel like you wish you had something to take in. And right on the other side of that is when the Holy Spirit starts to take you on a spiritual journey for that day. And it's delightful. It's incredible. I mean, you wait, Jesus says, wait on the Lord. The Bible says, wait on the Lord. So you wait. You've prayed and meditated. This is different kind of time. You've prayed and meditated, and you've now got some time that is unscripted and unprogrammed, where you don't have to be doing one thing or another, which if you are listening to the saints, you are making sure you guard that kind of time in your life, that you don't fill your life full of activity. If you're a student of the saints, you already know you don't fill your life with activity that's unnecessary. And I'm sure most of you already know that are not doing that. You're making sure you have time that isn't productive. And probably the older generations have more trouble with that, I wonder, just because if you were raised by my dad or my dad's dad, you got in trouble if you weren't doing something. And there's that voice in your head saying, what are you accomplishing? But though, that this is why people go do retreats. People ask me to do retreats. You know why I don't do them? I've never seen one stick in a person, ever. They get holy and they come back and get just as polluted. The retreat must be now, here. The retreat must be, if you're going to go do a retreat and they make you leave your phone in a bin somewhere, put your phone in a bin, here. Then you don't have to go anywhere to have the retreat. You're doing the retreat now. And I've always leaned towards that because I've known so many people that do these great retreats. They spend big money on retreats. But 10 years down the road, I see nothing. Nothing. And then yet everyone I know that's really doing it every day, 10 years down the road, you really see something. You really do. So I'm shocked at how it's similar to when I gave up caffeine. I'd listened to these meditators talk, and they were talking about this deep peace they feel. And I thought, I don't have that. I don't really feel a lot of deep peace. And then unrelated, didn't even connect it to caffeine, but I gave up. I still drink caffeine, but I found the amount I can have where it doesn't mess me up. But I gave up caffeine, an addiction to caffeine and an overuse of it. Then all this peace came rushing in, and I think about 8 years worth of growth rushed in about a month. Because I was so hopped up on caffeine, I couldn't notice it. Well, I'm a little surprised how, I want to be and I am still an informed citizen. I want to be an educated voter. Most of what's happening couldn't happen in the light of day. It happens because people don't know what's happening. So I want to be that still. I want to be an educated voter. I found I can do that in about 20 to 30 minutes a week. And everything else, I'm just amazed at how different my nervous system is from having cut it out. So I just want to mention how many more hours I'm spending on a spiritual journey with the Holy Spirit, and how one video can hop up my nervous system and take me out of that. And it's not worth it. I found I can be informed, but I shouldn't be dancing with them, because the dance that they're dancing is an evil dance. And I don't need to feed my mind all the time with it. I don't need to do that. And I don't know how much time anyone is spending or should spend. It's really none of my business, but I just thought as a spiritual director, I just wanted to say, hey, be careful how much of that you're putting in your consciousness on a daily basis. Remember your goal. Remember why the monks and nuns go to the monastery, to get away from the world, so that they have their freedom to put their attention on God and their spiritual growth. And, balance that with how much information you really need so that you're a responsible adult and citizen. Because I know you need some to be that. I know that. But how much do you really need? And everyone I know that it was a deep meditator that got into it lost some things. And then it seems like, from listening to people I know that are long-term meditators, they'll say, well, what I'm figuring out, or some of them started figuring this out about 2 or 3 years ago. They said, what I figured out is that I kept waiting for it to resolve. And so it was justified to follow it closely. And someone yesterday said this to me. Now I realize it's never going to resolve. And so do I really want, they didn't say this part, but do I really want to spend the next 10, 20 years of my life with adrenaline and consuming this kind of data? So an extreme that is, I think, irresponsible and evil is to be ignorant enough to vote for villains because you don't know they're villains. I think that you're failing in your duty as a human if you're not educated enough to know who the villains really are. And that takes some work. But the other evil is to be dancing with those same villains or dancing against them all day, every day. Because then they're still your teacher. They're still dictating the terms of your consciousness and your life. And who cares except one thing? Delight, beauty, love, joy. And the very real chance of your enlightenment, of your permanent union with God in this life, that's worth more. It's worth more. Okay, so here's the scripture. If you just, it's only one little scripture. You probably didn't need to dig out your Bibles, but in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good and separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning the first day. And that's all that I'm going to read. And what I want to tell you, I can't even pronounce the words tohu and bobu or bolu. The words that the Jewish writers use for created is not a past tense. So if you read this story accurately, if you read this creation narrative accurately, it's not telling you it happened back then. It's saying that it happened back then and it's happening now. So this creation thing is happening. It's happening. And to understand this story, this narrative, is to understand that the first thing God made is an ambiguous chaos, is the word scholars use for short, but it isn't erratic. I'm going to use my language now, a substrate a, a kind of material that is formless and ambiguous in order to pull order out of. Okay? And can't you stop there for about 7 lifetimes? And just think about that for about 7 lifetimes. Isn't that enough? And that it's still happening. It's happening right now. And God being God, God could have done lots of stuff. But God started with a formless kind of emptiness that has kind of everything but nothing all at the same time in it. So there's different ways to look at this, but it's profoundly relevant to anyone. And it's linked to what I said earlier, but it's in no way is this class about don't consume political content. I don't care. That's not what this class is about. But think of this as a practice in the moment. It's telling you that in order to do anything of relevance that is true, you must first be empty. You have to first start with emptiness, nothingness. And in order to be created by God, you also must find emptiness. And if you think about John of the Cross or Teresa of Avila or any of the saints, they're talking about the death of the self, right? The death of the self, the death of our opinions, the death of our thinking, the death of the way we are. Everyone says that's just how I am. And it's like, well, actually, it's not how you are. You don't know how you are till you die 7 times. And then what's left is how you really are. And everything you're saying is just how I am is actually just stuff you've clung to and become based on ideas you've had. And so we know that the long arc of spiritual growth is this death of the self. This sometimes radical and quick, but usually long, slow surrender of our opinions, our way, our rigidity, our control. We know this. And, we just know that's what it is. And so the long arc of it is just a slow grind of losing all that. But at any moment in the journey, you're right there with Jesus. He loves you. You're right there, best friends, hanging out with him. He's hanging out with you. So it's like, don't just say, well, one day when I'm all the way ground into, nothingness, then I'll have Jesus. That's true. You'll have him in this really much more full way there. No doubt. But you also have him right now. Right now. He's right there with you now. And so there's this other practice, which is at least like let's just say a hypothetical person, a hypothetical fruit tree. It's 6 years away from producing consistently good fruit. It just is. But man, it produces a few good fruits every year, So let's say a person is a number of years away from having a deep death of self and being able to ride in that consistently, deeply. They're still, talky. They're still, reading a book they've never read before and forming opinions while they're reading it. It's just a big problem, okay? Big problems. I mean, you don't know that till you're contemplative. Once you are, that kind of thing worries you. think, slow down, slow way down. But let's just say someone's so far away. But couldn't that person in any given moment, though, cease thinking? Put aside all their opinions before they talk to their spouse, before they decide what to do that day, before they have a conversation with a friend. Couldn't anyone at any given stage of that put it all aside for a moment and let something more true come through? For sure. Because God did, and God is now. And all you got to do is just step into that current. God's doing it now. God's doing Genesis now. It's happening right now. Nothing's stopping you from participating in that. Nothing. There's nothing stopping you from that. And you may be a long ways away from permanently being anchored in that space. But in any moment, you can choose to put it all aside. You can. And this is the hope of sort of the New Age, the way I was trained in the New Age, and this is the hope of, I think, Pentecostals, Pentecostal Christians. Brainwave studies show they have the strongest brainwaves of all groups, stronger than the monks and nuns. Did you know that? It's very strong. Stronger than the Buddhist monks. It doesn't matter what religion. Pentecostals have the most powerful gamma waves and all that stuff that comes off the brain of any groups. But they can only do it for a short period, whereas the monks and nuns are always doing it. So what I'm trying to say is, you can do both. You can in any moment be a vessel for God's power to pour through you into the world through a small act. At any moment. And it's just a matter of putting it all away and then saying, let me be a vessel of your power instead. It's just a matter of putting away your agenda with your friend or your family or the Thanksgiving dinner or the piece of art you're going to create, right? At any moment, you can just put that away and tap into Genesis and what God is doing and do what God is doing instead. Because you have direct access to Christ right now. Right now. Because you do. Because he's with you and you're with him. So whether it comes down to creating something and I'm trying to think of little things like just how you arrange your little living room. There's weirdly power, and if you let God do it through you, there's a weird power in it. My daughter has a particular gift, I think, for it. We call it setups. I'll say, hey, I got this stuff that needs arranged. Would you arrange it as a setup? And then she, especially when she was young, she'd, and then she'd take the things and, put them a certain way. And I used to do these little stones before class, little setups. And it's weird. You'd look at them and there'd be this power in it. But it's just, there's no reason there should be, except instead of putting them where you want them or the way someone told you it should look, you just said, hey, God, here's what I've got. How would you do it? And then you just trust in that. And then there's this weird power that happens. It becomes sacred. Little dumb stuff. It doesn't have to be anything important. What matters is, ultimately what matters is you're spending time being with God instead of just with your own ideas. That's really all that really ultimately matters. It doesn't matter if someone might be testing, none of you, but I could see a hypothetical person saying, well, I'll try it, but unless something happens because of it, it's all BS, you know? But no, no, no. The thing that happens is the miracle, which is the person thought, what's God think about this? Maybe me and God could do something together instead of just me doing it alone. That's the miracle, you know? Reading the Old Testament again, all the way through this, Mike. Going to go all the way through. You know what's blowing me away? I'm in the parts that people use to criticize Christianity, you know, the laws and Deuteronomy and Numbers and all this stuff. And there's just, you know, I'm a vegetarian. It's pretty rough. Everything's an animal sacrifice and of this kind and that kind and a certain way to eat it. And, you know, I really felt physically repulsed a few times in the thing of it, you know, because it's just brutal and some poor animals always got to get off for my sin. And I have a reverence, you guys have to know, but I also have had some revulsion, you know, in it. But after all is said and done, what's really just in those sections, just dwelt in my soul profoundly, is just how beautiful it is that a whole people, decided that they wanted every single aspect of their life to be in alignment with God's will. And they wanted it enough to create an entirely new culture, an entirely new way of living, that every single thing about how they had been shown how to live, they threw away. And they reorganized their entire economic life, social life, religious life. Every single aspect of their life, they decided they wanted it to have religious and spiritual significance. And while the forms fell away with Christ, the motivation is profoundly beautiful. It's so beautiful. And you have that in any given moment where you let that be in your life. You know, any given moment, you can let that happen in your life by just including God in it. You could be thinking something and you could say, you know, it's just me and my thoughts here. Hey, God, I'm having these thoughts. Won't you be a part of that? You could just say that and then let God be a part of that thinking. And that would be the same beauty. Right? That would be the beauty. God's right there in there with you. See how there's really nothing. It's not as if in 10 more years when you finish the night, there is that thing, but there's this other thing, which is right this second. If you want God to be there, God's there. Right this moment. To bring something into the world through you, or to bring you into the world, minus all the stuff that isn't true. So it's not, you know, it's not Pentecostal or, it's both. It's both. And I feel the power in me as I talk about it. I don't know if you are. The mystics will be it's the brighter power, you know? It's there. And, you know, in our rigidity and control and agenda and opinion, it kills it. I know some of you guys still have what I would call rigidity or control. Get a little tunnel vision. Sometimes some people I know do in here. You got to shed it because it's so rigid that it walls God away. It's not even that what you're doing is wrong necessarily. I don't know if it is. I don't I don't know, but the rigidity is so wrong. Because it's because you got to be pliable. You've got to be that amorphous, ambiguous mass for God to work with. You got to go into that chaos. The band said chaos was a bad word. We came up with the word ambiguous. Chaos, I think, for some people implies fast stress. But I'm so weird. I was thinking of chaos in slow motion, but I didn't say that part. So chaos doesn't mean stressful. It's going into a situation with no ideas whatsoever of how it ought to be. And maintaining no ideas while you wait for God to feed something in. It's this. It's putting aside all your ideas so that something true can come through. Just creating some space for it to come through is what it's about. And right now, if that's not one of your ideas, your ego will resist it. But as soon as you do it 10 times and like it, it'll become one of your ideas, then you'll love doing it. The ego's so childish. You're just going to be like, just do this 10 times and tell me what you think. Then it'll do it. Then it'll have its own ideas about it. And then 10 times later, it'll go, this is something we like. We like to do this. I've just noticed that about my false identity. It just needs a little training. It'll come right along. Pretty soon, 2 years down the road, it'll forget it ever wasn't its idea. It'll say, yes, I've always thought this. So you can train it, is what I'm saying. Just train it. If you have your own ideas, they're good, but they're just your little ideas. One of the thought experiments I like to do is I like to think of 1,000 other people that are really smart and gifted, and all of them would have different ideas about what to do in that same moment. So why do I think my ideas are special at all? Why? So what? They're just, sure, we could do this, but so what? We could do 10 other things too, all equally useful, or, and then the efficient person's ego says, yeah, but this is more efficient. But then the creative person says, we're not interested in efficiency. We want it to be beautiful. There's just all these ways to be. There's so many ways to be. The rigidity is insanity. And it's also the pride of self. It's me, my, this. It's the pride of self. It is. And I watch it in people, and I see how impervious they are to God's flow in that state. Impervious. One more way to use it, okay? It blocks you from letting God make you you, or it's a doorway into letting God make you you, right? Putting it all aside for a moment. It's a doorway into creating anything true and good, right? But it's also an incredible doorway into experiencing the true and the good. And then no one get mad, but I'll just mention the Grateful Dead a little. Their music often pisses people off until they learn how to let go of a whole bunch of agenda. And so many people have said it makes me mad. And if they'll listen, I'll say, well, listen to nothing else. Alexa says this all the time. Listen to nothing for 6 months except this, and tell me what you think then. Then something happens. Something magic happens. Then they say, this is amazing. And then the stuff they used to like better, they don't like so much anymore. Because there's just more true and good in it. And there is, because they're walking the same road as you. They were intentionally trying to bring the true and the good in many complex ways. It was on purpose. They're running the same experiment of letting go of ego and self and letting something true come through. So, but it's not about music. That's some people don't even like music. What about chickens? Just what about little chickens? I asked for this class. My daughter's at school. I texted her. She's texting me in class. It's great. I'm helping her. I'm helping her cheat or whatever we're doing. I don't know if that's good parenting. I said, because I remember reading on a forum once, somebody said, if I thought chickens had personalities, I would have to stop eating them. And this wasn't a vegetarian forum, and no one cared. It's just, but I thought, this guy lives in the city, a big city. He's never been around animals in his life. So, and because they have so much personality, they even have complex personalities. Like, how bad movies, I like bad movies, by the way. But how bad movies, the characters are they're just like cartoonish. They're just, I'm the arrogant one, or I'm the timid one, people say, but the characters lack depth. Because real people have lots of layers, They're cute and funny, but they're also deep and nature mysticy. People have a lot of things about them. That's what's real. Chickens have layers of things. They have a lot of, it's no different than people, really, except they're chickens. So I text Cass, just short, she didn't do it short. Short answer, name off our chickens' personalities, just real quick. She didn't do it quick, but listen to this. Winter is a gentle giant. She can be seen as standoffish, but she's really not. She enjoyed being hand-fed a lot and even kisses, even though she will never admit it. She loves her sisters, but sometimes gets picked on because she never uses her size as an advantage against them. Her color, and we're not talking about her feathers here, her color is blue or light blue. Autumn is one of the twins. She is more shy than her twin Summer. She's very curious and sweet. However, she is kind of timid and does not enjoy being held. She will, however, tolerate being kissed goodnight. She likes to follow her more extroverted sister, Summer, around. But then look, this is almost contradictory, but it's also true. But she's also adventurous and usually the first to try a new treat. She is usually seen with one of her sisters, but is also the most likely to go on a solo adventure. So that's a complex being. Her color is orange, more burnt than bold, though. Summer. This is, what am I trying to tell you guys with this? This is what it's like if you put everything aside and be with truth. I mentioned music, but it's everything. You can't experience the sacred unless you enter the sacred. You can be in the face of truth and get nothing unless you enter truth. See what I'm trying to say? It's not about the chickens or the music. It's everything. Summer is the less introverted of the... Did I do that one already? Okay, thanks, Cass. No. Summer is the less introverted of the twins. She lets me hold her the most out of all her sisters. She's curious like Autumn, but more inquisitive. She will openly investigate things she finds interesting. She, as well as Autumn, have a mischievous streak and have often been caught by me scheming together. Summer's color is undoubtedly sunshine yellow. The flock has no leader as of now, but Summer has the boldest personality, but she's a sweetie, though. One more. Esther. Esther is the most vocally loud. She is kind of dramatic. She is very pretty, and I feel that contributes to her personality the same way being pretty contributes to a human's personality. She is not vain, though. Not sure how a chicken could be vain. She is kind of delicate, but over the years she has been going out of her comfort zone and exploring by herself and just being alone a little more often. She has sadly never liked being held and petted, even as a baby pet. Her color is a deep purple. There, okay, so neat, just the chickens, um, little beings, and it, one of the offenses I took from Christian spirituality was how often they're always trying to tell you what's different about uh, humans and animals. They're so different. Here's why we're different. Here's why we're very different. We're different this way. We're different that way. My computer's going to die. We'll lose the video. I'm just going to try to save it if possible. It's not going to be possible. You guys are going to get mad, huh? And am I in trouble? Okay. Okay. So, um, yeah, I have to do this too because if I lose it, then I get yelled at by people. Okay. Um, so there's this truth, right? Trees have it, rocks have it, the air has it, rivers have it. Things created by humans intentionally also have it, right? To varying degrees. Just, beautiful piece of art that you really can sit in front of for half an hour. And it just for some reason never stops being interesting. You know, it's God coming through in creation. It's God coming through. But your mind and rigidity can't experience it. Can't. And so to be created by God is to empty oneself. To create with God is to empty oneself before it comes through. And to appreciate creation is to empty oneself. It's all tied to that, all of it. It's just all tied to that. And in this is a direct way to experience God way before you're enlightened, way before you're there, is in a way more permanent sense. And there's nothing stopping you from just doing it right now. You know, nothing stopping you from interjecting lots of moments of it throughout your day. Nothing stopping you. And it'll just add an endlessly more rich, joyous, meaningful, holy, sacred dimension to your life now, way before you do it permanently in some deep way. Way before. This is because you're best friends with Jesus. He loves you. Just every second of every day, he's saying, yeah, I'll hang out. Like anytime you text, yes, I'm here, ready. He's ready. Anytime you ask, oh, I'm totally willing right now. Yes, I do want to hang out with you. Yes, I do. Any minute, any second, he's there. He's there. Okay, last thing I want to say is the world jades us for this reason because what we create is ugly. We don't, artists don't first find the sacred and holy and then create holy art, right? Um, City builders don't first find the holy and then create holy cities. Cultural builders don't first find the holy and then build culture. And so social systems are not first. Let's find God and then let's, like the Jews tried. They did their best and it was beautiful, even though limited, because it's not as if I'm going to create a perfect piece of art just because I said I'll put God first and now I'm the best artist on earth. No, still has to come through this whole mess. We're doing our best here. But because there's pollution in the world, we jade up, we get hardened, or we get polluted by it. You know, good art should have no profit motive. It should have service to humanity. It should come from something real and not an image someone created for consumption. There's all these ways in which true art is, we just see shadows of true art in the world, just shadows of it. True art, true culture, true social interaction, true economy, true anything has to first come from nothingness, a shedding of everything. And you shouldn't put yourself in an open place like that and consume information that's less pure than that because it hurts you, and that's why you're jaded up. That's why you get hardened. I told Jill once that I listen to music that I only listen to music I can open my soul fully to without reservation. If I can't open the sacred dimension of my heart without being harmed by it, I won't listen.